Okay, let's talk a little bit about Venus. As I said, no, I don't think I told you, did I? I told you that Venus is the higher planet of Gemini. But what I didn't tell you is that Venus is also the soul of Earth. That's the most important thing I've said so far. The planet Venus represents the soul of humanity. Yeah? The Egyptians knew this. Yeah, there's a beautiful, beautiful image there from Peter Christensen decades ago. How can you strengthen the Venus in your life? Well, I can't think of anything better than working with 17 Steps of Perfection, the meditation book by the lady Ananda Tara Shan, and focus upon the qualities of Venus, which are love, goodness, and loyalty. The link to where you buy that book is at the end of the PDF that you can download from the website. Okay, now I'll talk a little bit now about the Venus cycle and Cazimi. Okay, so it's only really been in the last decade or two that astrologers started to work with the Venus-Sun cycle, otherwise known as Cazimi. But what I've noticed is that most astrologers are using it for how can they have a better love life. Whereas as an esoteric astrologer, I'm far more interested in how can we get the soul of humanity into a dynamic interplay with humanity. Cazimi simply means the heart of the sun, which is an interesting term because that's also connected to the fixed star Regulus. So a little bit of astronomy. Venus is a little bit closer to the sun than the Earth, 225 days to go around, whereas we have the 356. Therefore, 55. What is 8 Earth years is actually 13 years on Venus. Okay, now what happens as Venus does its dance around the sun is that it creates petals. They refer to it as the petals or the pentagram. So on one image as Venus, and Venus doesn't just go in one direction. It'll go forwards, it goes backwards, it goes forwards again. And as it goes through this forwards and backwards, retrograde and direct motion, it creates a 5-pointed star. Now, to an esotericist, this is extremely important because the 5-pointed star is the symbol for the ray of love in action, the fifth ray. Yeah? And the fifth ray is governed by the planet Venus. So esoterically, we see in the heavens the beautiful lotus, which is the pattern that's created when it's on its retrograde motion, and when it's on its direct motion, it creates the 5-pointed star or the pentagram in the heavens. Now, so Venus simply lets us know that it's extremely important. And did I say the fifth ray is to do with truth, higher truth, to do with accessing the intuition, the higher wisdom. Okay, now every time Venus, this is a little bit complicated and I won't have a lot of time to go into it, but every time Venus slows down, goes in a retrograde motion and back again, it stops at a particular point. And once every 100 years, there are 5 signs or 5 constellations where Venus stops before it begins to move in the other direction. And between now and I think it's 2032, I've got it written down somewhere, for most of the last 100 years, Venus has been stopping in the signs of Gemini, Leo, Scorpio, Capricorn, and Aries. Now, I find this quite interesting because for the last 100 years, humanity en masse are getting closer to their soul evolution, the first initiation, moving beyond the path of purification into greater soul connection through the sign of Leo. In order to get there, we have to go through the signs of Aries and Gemini, which tend to be quite self-focused. We need to move through the sign that strips us of everything that we can possibly let go of, the sign of Scorpio, in order to arrive at the path proper, which is designated by the sign of Capricorn. So I don't think there's any coincidence in the fact that Venus keeps stopping in these 5 signs and creating in the heavens this most beautiful lotus and pentagram. It's a message for all of us to see if we could listen. And I'm inclined to think that it's a call from the heart of the universe, through the heart of our planetary higher self, that's Venus, to the soul of Earth, to me, to you, to move on, to awaken, to be better versions of ourselves. This beautiful divine pentagram and these portals of Venus are demarked, and thank goodness for the astronomers of the world who've been able to go back through the years and demark exactly the dates when Venus goes from retrograde to direct and what degrees it stops upon. And as I said, I'm not the least bit interested in using, and these stopping points are known as the Venus star points. And as I said, I'm not the least bit interested in using those to find my perfect partner or my romantic love match, because to me this is about humanity's evolution. Okay, so yes, they are the Venus star points, I told you that, and they are stopping. Now they have been stopping in Scorpio, Leo, Gemini, Aries and Capricorn in roughly the same degree. I think, well, my mathematics is not that great, my astronomy, roughly the same degree for about 100 years, and then they slowly retrograde. And I think it's fairly in the next couple of years, we will move out of the Scorpio phase into the Libra phase, which I find very interesting. This Scorpio is to do with this purification for the spiritual aspirants who are ready to be committed and determined. And then the sign of Libra is associated with many things, not the least of which is the energy of Shambhala, which of course is a whole other story. So what we're talking about here is the sun occulting with Venus. Now, sometimes, and this is where I have trouble because I'm not an astronomer, sometimes Venus passes behind the sun, and from the position of Earth, we can't see it. Other times, Venus passes in front of the sun. Yeah. And the astronomers have taken photographs, and this is actually a video I found online, and I've just got the picture there, but if you found the video, you can see Venus starting out there and going along behind the sun, and then somewhere around here, it stations and retrogrades and then goes back the other way and creates one of those little lotuses. Okay. This Venus cazimi is known as in a few ways. Some people refer to it as the Venus occulting or transiting the sun. Some people just simply refer to it as the Venus star points. For reasons that I don't understand astronomically, only twice in a century does Venus cross in front of the sun. And we had that, and they're always 8 years apart, 2004 and 2012. And I know that Zachary and Mary and I went down to watch that event. Yes, and I know Captain Cook was also noted. So that's an image. There's Venus crossing the face of the sun, and that's from the 2004 photograph taken in China. Okay, I'm running out of time here. So this beautiful diagram of the cosmic pentagram is created by the morning star and the evening star. And I look at this as Gemini being a dual sign, and a portal and a bridge is trying to create a relationship between the worldly Venus, which you can see here on the right, and the holy Venus, shall we say, known as Minerva, who really stands for wisdom, Pallas Athena, there on the left. And so I think it's about lifting us from the physical, sensual Venus into the esoteric Venus. And this is what all of us are doing. And there's the date I couldn't remember. And 2026 is the last time that the cazimi, or the star point, happens in Scorpio. Now, you know, if you go in and wash your car in a car wash, you put your money in the slot and you choose how much you want to spend, and it'll tell you you've got 8 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Then you sit there while it does the sort of the cleaning, gets rid of all the mud, buffs and polishes, and the final rinse. I look at this last star point as the final rinse, 23rd of October 2026, given that the cazimi has been in Scorpio for the last 100 years, approximately 1926 through to 2026. So that's it. Our time for cleaning up our act is over. And then after a 4-year break, we have the new cazimi cycle starting in Libra, which has this connection to the way I look at it into the Shambhala portal. And this is a whole other story associated with the will of God. So I think about all of this as Venus calling us, a bit like a caller from a bush dance. And does humanity respond? It's a dance. There's a call and response and a call and response. We refer to this esoterically as invocation and evocation. And literally in the dates where we are now, in 2022, the call went out through the sign of Libra, the end of Libra, which I think is either to aspirants who are very young aspirants or to the disciples. Another call went out, and these calls are coming from the star points when Venus stops, probably behind the sun, I suppose, and the call in 2023 was in Leo. Well, to me, that is a call to those probationary disciples, those who are in the process of birth, or the soul is very closely connecting into them. And of course, the call's to all of us, but I'm inclined to think that there's a call particularly to certain people according to where they are in their development on the spiritual path. The call that we've had last year, 2024, was in the cross quarters, the critical degree of the middle of Gemini. To me, that is, come on, world aspirants, get it together, move forward, see what's true and real. We've had a wake-up call. The fourth call in March this year was in the 3rd degree of Aries, which is primarily a call to the world aspirants again. And the next call we have, or the next Venus star point, is very early in 2026, and it falls in the sign associated with the path of discipleship. That's Capricorn. And so I think this is a call to the world disciples, those who already have the soul energy dynamically active in their life. And I'm wondering whether it's the Board of Karma who are actually getting involved there. And these 5 invocations and evocations in the period that we're in at the moment, to my mind, seem to fit with those 5 tests or challenges associated with Gemini and the world aspirants, and Hercules, the world aspirant. And so I think the message is, how many of humanity want to be involved in a planet where there's love, a planet where there's higher truth, a planet where there's selfishness? How many people want to join the dance, and how many are deluded or confused or lost or can't find their way out? Venus calls us to liberate, calls us to expand so that we can make the best of the planet that we live on, requires us to shine the light on the things we've been obscuring from ourselves. And when that happens, when we get enough of the truth and the light, then what happens is eventually we end up from the 5-pointed into the 6-pointed star. And the 6-pointed star is a symbol for Israel, which of course is going in the opposite direction, so it appears to me, not the Israeli people, but the government of Israel. But it's also associated with the soul-infused personality, a degree of cooperation between the higher self and the lower self. And that is the purpose of the sign of Gemini. Soul planet of Earth, 5th ray, love in action, 5-pointed stars. And who is it who's calling us? The call is coming from the heart of the Holy Ones, from the heart of the 5th and the future Buddha of Earth, the Lord Maitreya. And the tests and the challenges, as I said before, are blindness, delusion, psychism, astral ensnarement, false teachers' teachings, plain old selfishness, refusal to help, or a failure to serve in a way that doesn't benefit the individual. all of those that I told you before, I just wanted to point out that the fourth one, the one that's occurred around about the time that they stopped allowing the food and the aid into the Middle East, was the fourth call. And from the Hercules myth, the fourth test is to do with, will Hercules give up what his plan was and go and help another who suffers? Yeah, go and help. And so humanity has had literally, you know, what is it, 8 weeks ago, a bit more, the very strong call to give up selfishness and go and help. Yes. Okay.